Wanted to start today's video with an excellent post here on X. Let's revisit a 2025 electric vehicle sales forecast by the Crisis News Network from 2019. That's the same year I started this YouTube channel. They projected Volkswagen to be the market leader, have never even heard that BYD exists, and forecast Tesla to be fourth with about 400,000 electric vehicles sold in the entire year of 2025. And as we know, Tesla sold more than that in just one quarter in 2023. No company sold more electric vehicles in the full year 2023 than did Tesla. And BYD, the company that didn't even appear on the Crisis News Network's list, is a close second place. VW and Renault, nowhere to be seen. So let's look at this from 2019. Top electric car manufacturers in 2025. They were estimating that VW would be getting close to, but not quite at 1.5 million, which, FYI, Tesla did roughly this many electric vehicles in 2022 and 2023. Probably wouldn't quite fit on this chart. As we continue to look through this stunningly poor prediction, of course, who knows what would happen in the future, but one gets the sense that many of the predictions from supposedly credible sources regarding electric vehicle sales, adoption, and who the leaders will be, at least historically, have been catastrophically off the mark. Speaking of Volkswagen, let's head to their home country now. We're in Germany. We're looking at automotive sales. 2023 versus the same year. Those estimates occurred in 2019. Let's head through the alphabet. Audi has seen its sales down 7.6%. BMW, 16.5%. Dacia, down 14.3%. Ford, a mere... I can barely say this. Ford, down 58.3%. Hyundai, down 17.9%. Kia, eating some lunch over in Germany, up 7.2%. Mercedes, down 18.2%. Opel, down 32.9%. Porsche, bucking the trend, up 4.5%. Renault, down 47.9%. Seat, never heard of that brand, might be a local over there in Europe that's never made it elsewhere, down 4.4%. Skoda, down 19%. Let's skip the next one. And VW, down 22.2%. Meanwhile, Tesla, up 494.6%. Now, I'm no expert here, but let's do a little bit of deductive reasoning here. If almost all of these brands are seeing meaningful declines from 2019 to 2023 in total vehicle sales, and then there's this one company here whose sales are up nearly 500%, is it possible that this company, what's it called? Tesla. Has anyone heard of them? I haven't. Tesla is eating the lunch of every one of these companies. If we examine this list a little more closely, the second largest gainer, up 7.2%, Kia. What type of vehicles is Kia producing at the moment? Spoiler alert, Kia is making some progress in terms of electric vehicles. If I didn't know any better, what we're witnessing here in numbers is a disruption of the internal combustion engine by the electric vehicle. Now, as we can see here, the average for all of these, technically over 20%, but keep in mind, some of these brands sell a much lower volume of vehicles than others. So absolute unit sales versus percentage declines may paint a slightly different picture, but regardless, it's quite evident, at least in Germany, sales of the internal combustion engine vehicle have well and truly peaked. And these declines are only going to accelerate. And it's not just Tesla who will be eating the lunch of German and European and many Western automotive manufacturers who today sell almost exclusively or exclusively internal combustion engine vehicles. As I've said before, and I continue to say, the future of the automobile market, in terms of units sold per year, number one will be Tesla. The rest of the list likely to be Chinese companies. Key among them, BYD. The media, very excited. The recent news that in Q4 2023, BYD sold a few more electric vehicles than did Tesla. Headline number one, China's BYD catches up with Tesla in electric vehicle market. 2, Tesla loses ground to Chinese rival BYD. 3, China's BYD outsells Tesla and why it will stay that way, allegedly. China's BYD surpasses Tesla as leading electric car seller. And credit where it's due, BYD scaling their electric vehicle production very rapidly, doing an excellent job, predominantly in China at the moment, but in time their vehicles will start to flood into other markets, some of the lowest hanging fruit, including other areas in the Asia Pacific region, especially Australia, and into Europe and the United States. And it's companies like BYD that legacy automotive manufacturers should be very concerned about, because no legacy auto companies has a hope in hell of competing with Tesla on technology. I'm quite confident to say, at least over the next decade and a half plus, Tesla will be the technology leader in terms of electric vehicles. You want the best, you buy a Tesla. You want something decent, but not great, maybe you buy a BYD. or another Chinese EV. So let's look at this article on CNBS. BYD's 5 best-selling cars, including one edging out Tesla's Model Y in China. Key point number 1. While Tesla's Model Y was the best-selling purely battery-powered car in China for the 6 months ending in November, BYD accounted for 4 of the top 10. What does this tell us? Number 1, Tesla, a foreign automotive manufacturer, is outselling every Chinese EV maker in China. Kind of awkward. You'd think that they'd have a home team advantage, right? Chinese companies, a lot of Chinese consumers wanting to support a Chinese company. What this can also tell us is that Tesla has such a compelling product that despite the fact that the Model Y costs significantly more than any of the other top 10 selling electric vehicles in China, it's still somehow punching so far above its weight. Why? Offering incredible value and the best technology that it's managing to be the number 1 selling purely electric vehicle in China, despite the fact that consumers have to pay a significant premium for that vehicle. It also tells us that Tesla has incredible economies of scale. Just one vehicle model taking out the top spot, BYD, having to do a lot of heavy lifting to compete with Tesla in terms of total vehicles sold, spread across multiple models, 4 different vehicles in the top 10. Which of these companies do you think has greater economies of scale, streamlined operations, more simplicity? So let's read this. BYD has overtaken Tesla again by the sheer number of fake electric vehicles plus actual electric vehicles. Makes for a fun headline, doesn't it? New energy vehicles. That's right, they're including hybrids, right? Internal combustion engine vehicles with a vibrator-sized battery. Okay, I just don't get it. Can people just stop doing this? Hybrids make about as much sense as 100 years ago it would have made sense to staple a fucking internal combustion engine vehicle to a horse and calling it automobile. It's just brain dead. Thanks in part to the Chinese automakers' hybrids and wide range of offerings in a lower price range. Now, when you hear wide range of offerings, think low economies of scale. And when you hear lower price range, you think, razor-thin profit margins, both of which, by the way, are true. BYD is barely making any money per vehicle sold. It's still making a profit, but so small. A very risky situation to find yourself in, because if there's another company out there with massive profit margins, maybe even a company with the best-selling vehicle in your market, and they drive the prices of that vehicle or other models in the future even lower, you wish to keep selling vehicles, you'll have to follow suit. And if your margins are already really thin, you slash prices faster than your costs come down to compete and keep selling volume, your margins may go negative. Then you're losing money per vehicle sold, and then why even bother? So credit where it's due, BYD are doing well in terms of unit volume, but they are in a very precarious situation. And I'm not suggesting they're going to go bust. They're doing quite well. It's just they're in a really risky situation trying to compete with Tesla. They have a huge amount of complexity within their business and very thin profit margins. While Tesla's Model Y was the best-selling purely battery-powered car in China for the 6 months ending in November, BYD vehicles accounted for 4 of the top 10 such cars sold during that time. When including hybrids, BYD took out 7 of the top 10 spots. So let's check out the different models on offer by BYD. The Chin Plus, sorry if I botched the pronunciation there, it's not going to be the last time I do that. BYD's bestseller sold nearly 400 more units than Tesla's Model Y in the 6 months ending in November. Key caveat here, this is including hybrid variations and battery electric variations. I'm not sure why they're counting horses along with their cars, but hey, whatever. It makes you sleep better at night. Just remember, hybrids going away. Here's the kicker. Priced between $13,942 and $24,700. Very roughly, approximately half the cost of a Model Y. And this was outsold by Model Y when you delete the fake electric vehicles known as hybrids from these numbers. On the low end, BYD, 420 kilometers to 610 kilometers of range. Nice. Model Y, 532 to 688. And obviously, far superior technology. And look at the price point differences. Entry-level BYD, under 14 grand. Entry-level Model Y, just over 37 grand. And on the higher end, just over 50,000 US. Number 2, the Seagull. Pro tip, I strongly advise not being involved in a collision in the Seagull. Unless, of course, you desperately wish to delete yourself. Physics is physics. The Seagull, 189 to 251 miles of range. Available for just over $10,000. And on the high end, just over $12,500. Yet still outsold by Tesla's Model Y, 3 to 5 times the price. Next, the Song Plus, which once again includes fake electric vehicle and electric vehicle variations. Still significantly cheaper than Tesla's Model Y, just over $22,000 up to $29,000. And now, Yuan Plus. This is a battery-only electric vehicle, priced under $19,000 US. On the high end, sub $23,000 US. And finally, the Dolphin. Again, probably would avoid being involved in a collision in such a vehicle. Why? Physics. Price range just over $16,000 to just over $19,000 US dollars. It is truly remarkable that Tesla's Model Y in China is outselling local Chinese competition available for a literal fraction of the price. Many of these vehicles, in terms of range alone, are relatively competitive, not on par with the Model Y, of course, but in terms of value for money, if the only thing you care about is range, and I do mean the only thing, these are great value. But if you care about things other than range, including the software, the technology, the performance, the safety, it's no contest. But the fact that some of these vehicles can be purchased for half, a third the price of a Model Y, and yet still are being outsold in China by the Model Y from a foreign automotive manufacturer, just goes to show what an incredibly compelling product Tesla has. Things are going to get very interesting a few years from now when Tesla's next-gen vehicle is available, because if Model Y is already the number one selling electric vehicle in China at roughly double the price of their next-gen vehicle, what do you imagine is going to happen when their next-gen vehicle is available for half the price? Will it be outselling number two by double, triple, quadruple or more? Only time will tell. Now let's see what Bloomberg has to say about BYD outselling Tesla in terms of electric vehicles, whether they differentiate between hybrid and electric, and importantly, whether they discuss price points, and most important of all, given the business and investment focus of Bloomberg, the razor-thin profit margins BYD makes selling vehicles versus the industry-leading margins Tesla makes selling vehicles for much higher prices. On screen now, this absolute gem posted on X earlier in 2023. This was only the first half of the year. Keep that in mind, but it's the most recent available data. We can see that Tesla themselves, one company, made more profit than all Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers combined. We can see that Tesla globally made close to $6 billion in profits just in half a year, which is more than the combined total of all Chinese EV makers on screen now, which does include companies losing meaningful amounts of money. But the most profitable companies here, SAIC at $2 billion, BYD at $1.9 billion, BAIC at $1.8 billion. And then we're into the billion, then $500 million, then $1/3 billion. I mean, we're just talking a couple $100 million here. Everyone else losing money. Furthermore, BYD, who are selling close to the same number of pure electric vehicles as Tesla, making roughly 1/3 the profit. Again, it makes sense. BYD lacks economies of scale. There's a lot of variation, a lot of vehicle models. There's platforms that have both a hybrid and an electric version as well. And of course, they're playing in the low end of the market with extremely affordable vehicles, yet still being outsold and clearly outprofited, if that's even a term, by Tesla.
The concentration of what they do is in mainland China, serving a domestic market where they make lots of different EV models, but the principal difference between BYD and Tesla is that it's at a lower price point.
Bravo, Ed. Excellent so far. He's identified the huge variety of vehicle models BYD sells and the much lower price points. 10 out of 10 so far.
And one thing that BYD does that's very different from Tesla is that alongside battery electric cars, full plug-in battery electric, they also do plug-in hybrids.
This is true. And also super stupid. Although I understand why BYD does this. Until very recently, they manufactured pure internal combustion engine vehicles too. And during this transitional period, I guess they're trying to milk some of the expertise in producing ICE vehicles by slapping a tiny battery in them and calling them a new energy vehicle. But remember, hybrids do not make sense. They have unnecessary complexity. Electric vehicles are available with compelling features and sufficient range now that there's no reason to be producing hybrids, and they will go away. So people who are thinking about the future of the automotive market should immediately be deleting hybrids from any numbers they see, because they are going away.
Where they sell many of them as well. So you're quite right to point out that in the fourth quarter, the final 3 months of 2023, BYD sold 526,409 fully battery electric cars, most of them in China, whereas Tesla handed over 484,507 globally. But if you aggregate it over the course of the year, BYD is only bigger than Tesla on an annual basis in 2023 if you include plug-in hybrids.
Again, true, and again, you got to delete those because they're going away. Once again, not to take anything away from BYD, of all Chinese EV makers, they're doing very well. But relative to Tesla, not a pretty picture. Roughly 1/6 the profit per vehicle sold. Many of the vehicles that they're currently selling and making a profit on are going away, hybrids, and have a huge amount of unnecessary complexity within their business model. So much variation, so many different models. And one other issue, many of the vehicles that they produce, conjecture alert, are not going to be able to be easily exported to countries with more rigorous rules and laws around safety without major modifications and major increases in cost. And I suspect that they will begin exporting vehicles and they will do what they need to make them safer. However, it just means that their profit structure is going to change. They'll have to sell them for much higher price points than they can locally in China, and they'll still be competing with Tesla.
But Tesla still sold more battery electric overall that year.
But is the trend clear?
Oh, the trend is clear, and so we knew that this was going to happen going into these fourth quarter deliveries. The question more on Tesla's side is, where are they still growing geographically? And
I can answer that, Ed. I'll take that one. Everywhere.
I had Dan Levy of Barclays on the show earlier today saying that, yeah, look, it's possible you can have Tesla continuing to grow in China because it doesn't make the lower end EV. It's used price cuts as a lever, particularly in China, but it's still seen as more of a premium product there than BYD. Then the next question is, what about those early adopters? If you're an early adopter and you were like the first to get into an EV and you've been and gone, what's left over on the demand side?
I do wonder, what about China? Do they love having Tesla there? Not only, making vehicles, it's a higher end product. Give us some backdrop and some history there. Yeah.
It's fair to say that Tesla and indeed Elon Musk directly has kind of had a up and down relationship with China. The Chinese government was incredibly supportive for the construction in the first place of the Shanghai plant. 50% of all of Tesla's vehicles globally are built in China, in Shanghai. So it's clearly an engine room for their production base. And they were very helpful in financing, things like that. There have been some clashes over data, the ownership of Tesla vehicles by government officials, for example. But on the whole, it's clearly an important relationship between the two. The big difference between what's happening in China and what's happening here in North America is there are just many, many different EV makers. There are so many more models out there that you can buy. And as you pointed out at the top of the segment, many of them the average American would never even have heard of, the brand nor the model. And so it's a more fiercely competitive and market.
So what it is saying here is completely true. Now, regarding the relationship with Tesla in China, obviously a few minor little issues along the way. There was a temporary ban a while ago where government employees, I believe, couldn't have Tesla vehicles on government property, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's since resolved. But we've got to be clear here. China loves Tesla. They rolled out the red carpet. First non-Chinese automotive manufacturer allowed to operate a solely owned plant in China ever. Prior to that, everyone was forced into a joint venture. They got below market rate financing from a bunch of Chinese lenders to construct a factory. And while it was being constructed, a bunch of import tariffs and taxes on Tesla vehicles, e.g. the S and X, into China were either reduced and or abolished. I think there's two reasons for this. One, it's a nice flex to roll out the red carpet for a very, very well-respected premium vehicle brand. In addition, having Tesla in China, an aggressive, innovative company, I won't mention anything about intellectual property, was likely to stimulate competitiveness and the entire ecosystem around electric vehicles in China, because these companies were now having to compete with the clear industry leader, Tesla. Very successful strategy.
Them the average American would never even have heard of, the brand nor the model. And so it's a more fiercely competitive and market with many more players.
Does it tell us anything about how an EV market could unfold here?
By the way, again, I do just have to underscore, the Chinese market is far more competitive than anywhere else. Far more competitive. Yet still, Tesla's Model Y is the number one selling vehicle in the world's most competitive EV market, selling for 2, 3, 5 times as much as other vehicles in the top 10 in China. What does this tell us about future sales in other regions of the world? If Tesla's swinging their dick around and turkey slapping all of the local players in China by selling a vehicle for multiples more and still coming out on top, it's worth pondering.
In the US, or are the big three just too entrenched in American society?
Tim, I think I heard you praising your last guest for saying that we don't know what's going to happen in 2024, and that's refreshing. And I think that is the answer for the EV market. There is certainly now a big question mark over demand.
No, Ed, there is not. There are many folks out there who don't understand what's going on, who generally think there are concerns or questions around demand, but they're just wrong. And I find it equal parts painful and embarrassing that I need to point this out. Best guess, 2023, roughly 10% of all new vehicles sold were electric. And about a decade from now, roughly 100% will be. We need to see another 10 times increase in electric vehicles sold between now and about a decade from now. And we will. I still don't know when the tipping point will be. Does it need to be 20% of all electric vehicles sold in a single year before people go, oh, we were wrong about those concerns about demand? Does it need to be 35%, 50%? We saw earlier in this video what's happening in Germany alone. ICE vehicle sales have well and truly peaked. The transition's happening. The only blip on the radar that's confusing people and sending some mixed signals are sky-high interest rates, which I don't believe will last for too much longer, causing many consumers who intended on purchasing an EV to delay that purchase decision again. Maybe a few months ago on this very channel, I covered a survey, international survey. Question: do you already own an electric vehicle? Do you intend on purchasing an electric vehicle in the next 5 years? Or do you not intend on purchasing an electric vehicle in the next 5 years? People who already own or intended on purchasing an EV made up roughly 2/3 of all respondents. 66% is a lot more than 10%, which is how many EVs were sold as a percent of all new vehicles last year, roughly. And as I've said, between now and 5 years from now, many of those people, the 1/3 who weren't considering purchasing an EV in the next 5 years, will change their mind and buy one. But still, question marks around demand. I guess if they say it enough, maybe it'll come true.
In the past, Tesla, as an example, has leaned on the idea that its production was greater than its deliveries because there's always a mad scramble at the end of the quarter where vehicles get caught in transit. But there, if you move past that, and it's relevant with Rivian as well, you do come to the point where you ask, is the demand really there? That will be the question for 2024. And in this market, in particular North America, you will have seen the news over the holidays about the federal tax credit. The number of EV models in this country that are eligible has basically halved from 24 to just 13. And those rules are now determined by basically, if you want to buy an EV and you want it to be eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit, which is a big incentive, right, to buy something if $7,500 off, it depends on the exposure that its components have to Chinese ownership. In other words, if your battery has a component that has ownership by a Chinese company greater than 25%, it won't be eligible for that tax credit. And incentives are really key in this market still.
In my opinion, these incentives should not exist. They're unnecessary. It's just a total waste of money. It's also farcical at the moment. Some of the weird disparities depending on where components are sourced, it's just nuts. But obviously there definitely are concerns about demand this year. What's this on screen now? Sam Corris at ARK Invest posted this. 4 years ago, Tesla delivered around 500,000 units in the entire year. They just made around that many in a single quarter. And what's this graphic we see here? This is from last year, in which Tesla's 2022 deliveries nearly matched its 2012 to 2020 total. And obviously, if we had the 2023 deliveries, they'd be somewhere up here on the chart. Pretty strong exponential growth, but obviously there's definitely question marks around demand now. So let's have a look at the vehicles that are currently eligible for the IRS tax credit in 2024. Only 7 models currently qualify, so the full list. The Rivian R1S and R1T gets $3,750, half the credit. The Chevy Bolt, $7,500. The Ford F-150 Lightning gets the $7,500. And the Tesla Model 3 Performance, all Model Y trims and the Model X Long Range get the $7,500. Farcical. Again, these incentives do not need to exist, although they're certainly helpful for Tesla's so-called competition because none of those companies are making any money selling these vehicles. So effectively giving consumers a $7,500 discount might allow them to bump the prices up a little bit and maybe slightly reduce their catastrophic losses. So here's the thing. You might note that the Model 3 Performance gets the $7,500 tax credit, but guess what? That's the only Model 3 that gets the discount. Could this cause a bit of a glitch in the matrix? Well, let's find out. We're on the Tesla US website. Let's read this. The $7,500 federal tax credit. New Model 3 Performance qualifies for a $7,500 federal tax credit for eligible buyers. So, once again, that's only one variation of the vehicle. I feel like a glitch in the matrix is about to reveal itself. So we're going to use the probable savings tab here. The reason is because that will factor in the $7,500 tax credit. It also includes some savings in terms of energy and stuff, but just trying to illustrate a point here. Model 3, rear-wheel drive with probable savings factored in, $35,990. The Model 3 Long Range, $42,990. And the Model 3 Performance, $40,490. That is right, folks. So how are these numbers calculated? $3,000 savings versus gas over 3 years. And then the $7,500 tax credit. So it's literally cheaper, all things considered, to buy the Model 3 Performance than it is the Long Range. The Performance version, with an obscene 3.1 second 0 to 60 time and 162 mile top speed. This is bonkers. And the reason is as follows. The base price for the Long Range Model 3 is $45,990, no tax credit. The Performance is $59,990, but you get the $7,500 off. This is just utterly mad. So the real question is, who in their right mind is going to opt for the Long Range Model 3 with an extra 18 miles of estimated range over the performance if they're eligible for the $7,500 tax credit. I'll be paying a couple of $1,000s more for 18 additional miles of estimated range and far worse performance. Once again, these tax credits are an unnecessary waste of taxpayer money. They shouldn't exist. No one should have them, period. But hey, as a Tesla investor, I'll take it. It's probably going to force Tesla to increase the price of their performance so that even after the discount, it's still higher price point than the long range. Only time will tell. And, the refreshed Model 3 is going to be available in the US sometime this year. Pure conjecture, of course, but I'm pretty confident in that prediction. Wonder what the prices are going to look like then. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 shit, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. You get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links at the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.